Hey, it's James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and today I want to show you 5 things that every beginner who's starting electric guitar needs to know. These are things, I wish somebody told me this stuff when I was getting started, because it would have made my journey so much easier in the same way that, having a step-by-step course to follow would do. The first thing that I want to share with you, and this is definitely something that I wish I knew going into it, is that you can jam right away. So many people, students and teachers alike, put improvising on a pedestal, and making mistakes is like a no-no. I myself am a perfectionist, so this is probably why I fell into that trap too. I wanted to learn all these scales and prepare myself for that inevitable moment where I was finally going to improvise and it was going to be awesome. But I've realized you can take a student who's literally just starting guitar. It could be their first day of guitar, and they can take a solo on their first day. It's not going to be the most crazy solo ever, but it's going to fulfill the requirements of a solo. It's going to be created on the spot, and it's going to allow you to express yourself. It can be as simple as playing these notes right here. Just my index on the 5th fret of the D string and my ring finger on the 7th fret of the D string. And you can just play a solo with like 2 notes. Just one note. And if you don't know the fundamentals, like the names of the strings or where to put your fingers, I have a free ebook that teaches all the basics. I'll put a link in the corner. Anyways, you experiment with those 2 notes. You could even go to the G string and add the same notes, 5th and 7th fret on the G string. And instead of worrying about full scales right away and all that, just try to make some cool rhythms. You could use rhythms that you're already familiar with, like that sports rhythm chant. It's like ta 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 ta. Let's go. I used that rhythm. Ta 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 ta. Let's go. But I just played those notes. Or you could do Yankee Doodle, went to town riding on a pony. Whatever songs you like, whatever you're familiar with, whatever you think is cool, whatever you're comfortable with. That was probably like the least cool song ever that I did right there, Yankee Doodle. But you get the point, right? Notes plus rhythm equals soloing. And obviously you can take it way further than that as you get more comfortable. You'll be able to make rhythms on the fly and use scales more effectively. But it's important to just do it and get over that initial can I solo anxiety, that we all start with. Like if you're learning how to juggle, you're going to drop the balls on your first day, and that's totally fine. That's a part of it. And the sooner you get used to that, to trying, failing, and trying over and over again, the sooner you're going to start succeeding, and you're going to sound really good when you're taking a solo. The next thing I want to talk about is, it's quite simple. Play softer. This is another trap that I fell into. I practiced my electric guitar acoustically, and I played way harder than I needed to in order to hear myself playing. And when I did plug into an amp, it didn't sound very good. I couldn't dial in my good tone. And this ties into dynamics, which basically means your volume range from quiet to loud. Just think about when somebody's talking. When they're calm, they're going to be a little bit quieter. And when they're really excited or angry, they're going to be louder and they're going to... And if you're always playing as hard as you can, it's like you're playing angry all the time, So we need to play softer and build up that dynamic range so that we can express ourselves in different ways. Using the same 4 notes as before. And this is easier and harder than it sounds, because while it's easy enough to do it, to play soft, you have to keep reminding yourself like, oh, I'm playing hard. But if you plug into an amp and set it kind of loud, it'll automatically remind you of this. You'll definitely be able to hear the difference. So learning to play softer and amplified kind of go hand in hand. And I know not everybody has a place where they can crank their amp. And to help with that, I recommend going completely silent and getting an amp that you can plug your headphones into. You could even get like an app or something on your computer. There's tons of awesome options. My next huge tip is also related to playing with an amplifier, and that's to learn how to mute the excess strings. You may have noticed when you play without an amp, it sounds pretty good, but then you plug in and you hear all these strange noises, you know, little squeaking sounds that you never really heard before. And in order to eliminate those strange noises, you have to mute the excess strings using any extra fingers that you have. You know, there's really no right or wrong answer here. Let's say I want to play something like this. I'll do it acoustically. And yeah, that sounds fine in the room, you know, me just hearing the strings on my electric guitar. But I'm going to replay that exact same audio clip, but I'm going to turn on my amplifier. It was muted before. Same exact thing. And you can hear there's all this extra stuff that we don't really want. So we have to learn to mute the excess strings by touching them with whatever excess flesh that we can, you know, with your picking hand a little bit, like my picking hand's resting on the thicker strings to mute them, laying out your index in a way where, see how it's kind of resting on the thinner strings? And there's a lot to it and way more than I could cover even in like a 1-hour lesson. You know, muting excess strings is something that you have to keep exploring as you keep learning things. The best thing though, the first thing is to be aware of it so that you can work on it over time. Number 4 is a really simple trick that lets you play in major and minor keys using a single shape. If you're not familiar, every electric guitar solo from Led Zeppelin to AC/DC to Polyphia is going to use the minor pentatonic scale at some point. It's like the default scale for electric guitar. And I teach it and go over it in other lessons. I'll put a link in the corner, you know, if you want to explore the scale. It's in my free ebook as well. And when you're trying to figure out what key to play it in, like if you're jamming on a song in the key of A minor, it's really easy. You just put your finger on that note. So in the key of A minor, I just put my finger on A, which is the 5th fret of the thickest string, and then I can play my minor pentatonic scale. But let's say it's in the key of A major. There's this little trick you can do where you just go towards the tuning heads. For me, that's going left. 1, 2, 3. And now we play our scale here. And we kind of focus on our pinky. You know, our pinky is basically on the note A. And we make the A major pentatonic scale. So basically, my index finger is on A, I play the minor pentatonic shape, and I get A minor pentatonic. If I go 1, 2, 3 to the left, my pinky lines up with A, I get A major pentatonic. And there is a separate major pentatonic scale, and that's great to learn, but you don't need to learn it right away in order to play songs in a major key. You can just use the first shape that everybody learns, the minor pentatonic, and use it to play major and minor songs. Number 5, triads are king, especially if you're coming from acoustic guitar. You know, you'll be used to those open chord shapes and all that stuff. And then when it comes time to play chords on electric guitar, you could, you know, keep doing those shapes, but there's so much more that you can do. Bar chords are an obvious solution, and you can do those on acoustic guitar as well. And that's where a lot of people end up, and it's great, you know, especially playing bar chords higher up. But there's something where you basically take a bar chord even one step further, and it works so well on electric guitar, and that is a triad. It's essentially a little snippet of a bar chord that you can move all over the fretboard. You know, so if we have like a bar chord like this, we just take the top 3 notes of it, and that's our triad. And you can play triads down low. You can play them way up high. All over, like there's so many combinations. Musically, they're very tight, you know, they're just small little snippets of chords, and they work really well with distortion. The most common triad, and the one that I recommend people start with, is just a little bar on the top 3 strings. That's a minor triad, and whatever note you're lining up with, You can line up on the thickest string or the thinnest. They're the exact same string. So right here is like an A minor triad. Here would be D minor because D is at the 10th fret. You know, and that's a really good shape to start with and just explore. I'm going to make a bunch of lessons covering triads because it's a really, really important and massive subject, especially in a band setting. You know, if you play in a band and somebody's already playing all these other chords, they're already playing open chords or bar chords or whatever, you can add triads on top and it's not really going to take up too much space. You know, you're just going to fit right in there and it's going to sound really pro. So those are 5 things that you can do to improve way faster than I did when I was getting started. If you would like a complete guided path from just picking up your electric guitar all the way to being able to solo with confidence in different keys using a bunch of different rhythms and scales, using triads, learn how to construct songs, how to use a looping pedal. I do all that in my course, The Complete Lead Guitarist. I'll put a link to that in the corner if you're interested. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you'd like to see more like this, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you have any questions. I appreciate any support that I can get. Have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.